Hi everyone, today we are talking about reflections. As a reminder, you do not need to write down everything that we'll cover in this video, but be sure to jot down important information and at least one example of each type of problem that we'll cover. Also remember that you can pause the video to jot down important notes, rewind to view information again, and fast forward if you think you got it. Just be careful, make sure you don't fast forward too much that you end up missing out on something important. So as a reminder, reflections are when you flip a point or figure across a line of reflection. So the line of reflection is acting like a mirror. It's going to change both the location and the orientation. So that's the way that it's facing. Instead of this point facing down and to the right, it's now facing down and to the left. Tips that you're going to want to jot down into your notebook before moving on is making sure that the distance from the line of reflection between the object and the line of reflection stays the same. And then also remember that your orientation is also flipped. If left hasn't become right or up hasn't become down, one of those two, then you probably just translated instead of reflecting. You have to change in location and orientation. So be sure to pause this video and jot those down first. All right, so one of the types of problems that you might be asked to work on is reflecting points. So in this problem, for example, they're asking you to plot the image of point A under a reflection across the y-axis. Go ahead and pause this video and try it on your own first. So first thing that I notice is that it's across the y-axis. So the y-axis is going to act like our mirror. The y-axis is this one right here. Okay, so this line down here is going to be like the mirror. It could have very well been the x-axis. That's going to look very different. So if it were the y-axis, remember I have to keep the same distance. So this is 2 spaces away from the y-axis, the point of reflection. So in order to plot its image, I'm going to also have another point on the other side that is 2 spaces away from the y-axis. So this right here is your image of point A under a reflection across the y-axis. So if I were to pretend like this is a sheet of paper and I fold this paper in half, this new image should land right on top of the old image. If it were the x-axis that we are reflecting across, it would just be the same except this is now the mirror. So then you would count how many spaces that A is away from the x-axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then the new one would also be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away. So this would be the answer reflected across the x-axis. Okay? But again, this problem is not asking for the x-axis, it's the y-axis. So that's your answer. All right. So this problem tells us that point Q prime, so that means that's the new one since it has the prime, is the image of Q3, -4 under a reflection across the x-axis. What are the coordinates of Q prime? Here they're not giving you a graph, so what you can do is you can sketch something really quickly, and they're telling you that Q, the original one, was 3, -4. So it's right here. And it's going to be reflecting across the x-axis. The x-axis, if you remember, is the one going across. So if it's reflecting across the x-axis, that means the newer point would be somewhere over here. So you just have to figure out the coordinates of the new point. Well, the new point is also going to be on the 3. It's just going to be further up here at the 4. So your points are 3, 4. And we know that it's 4 as well because it has to be the same distance. So if this one was 3 spots away, 1, 2, 3, 4, sorry, 4 spots away to get to 3, -4, this one also has to be 4 spots away. Okay, so those numbers aren't changing. It's just the sign is changing because this is a positive 4. So when they don't give you a coordinate plane, it's a little trickier. You're going to have to sketch things out a little. Eventually you'll figure out what it is even without sketching it out, because you can kind of imagine that if it's in this top quadrant, then all of them are going to be positive numbers. This problem right here is asking you to reflect shapes now. So it says plot the image of triangle ABC, that's this blue one right here, under a reflection across the y-axis. Go ahead and pause the video and try it on your own. All right, so again, this is the y-axis that they need to reflect it across. So it's going to end up over here because this one right here, ABC, is going to be flipped over to this side. This is the mirror. So remember, you want to have the same amount of spaces. So the B is 1, 2 spaces away from the y-axis. So that means the new B on the other side is also going to be 1, 2 spaces away. So that's the new B. I'm going to do the reflection for every individual point. The A is 2 spaces away from the y-axis at this 2 right here. So the new A is also going to be 2 spaces away. The C lines up with the 3 on the y-axis, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spots away. So over here, it's also going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spots away. And if you notice, the orientation has flipped. Instead of this pointy end, pointing to the right, it is now pointed to the left. And it is across the y-axis. Okay, so each individual point on that figure should be the same amount of spaces away from your line of reflection, just on the opposite side. And then the last type of problem that you could be asked to do is basically they give you a reflection and you have to figure out where the line of reflection was that created this reflection. So for example, this problem asks you to draw the line of reflection that reflects triangle ABC onto triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. So the blue one is the original, the old one, and it looks like the pink one is the new one. Okay, just it's always a good idea to figure out which one's the old, which one's the new first. Pause the video and see if you can figure this out on your own first. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do in a problem like this is I'm going to choose 2 corresponding points. So A and A prime, or B and B prime, comparing them together. Let me try B and B prime. So if I'm comparing these two together, I have to remember that my line of reflection is the same amount of spots away from those 2 points. So I'm basically going to put my line between those 2 points. And then I want to double check that every corresponding points, B and B prime, C and C prime, A and A prime, are the same amount of points away from each other. So B prime is 1, 2 spots away from the line of reflection, and B is also 1, 2 spots away from the line of reflection. A is 2 spots away, A prime is 2 spots away. C is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spots away from this green line of reflection, and C prime is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spots away from this line of reflection. So that looks like that'll be the answer. Okay, so for these problems, you're basically going backwards and you're trying to figure out where that line of reflection, that mirror, was. Let's try one last one. Okay, so again, we have to draw the line of reflection that reflects triangle ABC onto triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. Pause your video and try it on your own first. All right, you should have gotten this as your answer. Because if you notice, C and C prime, they are on that same point. They didn't change. Whenever you see that, that should be a hint that it's actually on the line. And then it's basically like it just flipped over without any distance between the line of reflection and those points. You can double check it with your corresponding A points. A prime is 1, 2, 3, 4 spots away from the line of reflection. A is 1, 2, 3, 4 spots away as well. The B's are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. So it is smack dab in the middle between my two images. And then again, C and C prime just are the same. They never moved because they were exactly on the line of reflection. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions as you're working on these problems, and I'll see you in class.